What up guys and welcome back. Today we're looking at how things are made. Light just stopped working. Anyway, here's how things are made. Bruh, if you haven't seen this one yet, you're not gonna believe it. You probably won't eat sausage anymore. So the meat they use in a hot dog is just leftovers. Generally what's left off pork and beef. They grind the whole thing in a machine and then they add chicken trimmings to this thing. It's then blended with an insane amount of water. Then look at how much seasoning. There's a ton of sugar and salt in this thing, corn syrup, and then finally to get the whole thing actually work, they put it in a smoke bath kind of shower so it smells nice. You know what's crazy? I've seen that video before and I didn't care. I still love sausage. If you thought factory made cheesecakes are just I don't know, somebody made a huge cheesecake, well, it is not quite exactly like that. So there's the eggs, right? You might as well just call it egg cake. Just, Jesus, look how many eggs there are. It's a bunch of sugar added, I don't think it's fluffy kind of thing. And then put into a machine. It doesn't really show, but it's crazy, right? It kind of cuts them into these portions of cheesecake and then cut into pieces. This also looks like a Japanese factory if you ask me. But I just go to the end of one of these lenses and open up and then let the whole thing go in. Did you ever wonder how facial masks are actually made? And this thing's crazy. They get these fruits, tomatoes and cucumbers and potatoes and everything, and then they do the old freeze-dry technique on these things, which if you really wonder what it actually is that it's basically done only to food, so it'll be usable for a lot longer. And at the same time, not losing nutrition and anything except water, I think? That looks delicious though. Like I could sprinkle this thing on my food. Oh, it's crazy. How are donuts made? Well, they make a dough. It doesn't really show, but they put it in a fryer. They push the whole thing a little bit so it, kind of fries evenly. They turn it around for an even all over fry. And then I gotta change the video. If you're wondering how they put the chocolate on these donuts in the factory, yeah, they just dunk the whole thing one side on this machine and then boom. Oh, man, I could eat 3 of those right now, if not 6. Now these noodles that you go and get, that you cook for like 3 minutes, are actually pre-cooked, kind of. They go through this big machine, put into little portions, dry it out, and then like put in extra vegetables and all that. It's probably one of the best machines out there. I don't know if this is like legit. Wait, no, that's a bath bomb. What's a bath bomb? It dissolves in the water in the bath, and it's kind of like a skincare kind of like thing, which looks just cool. I could live without knowing that, but it certainly looks awesome. Now, what I really want to know is how they put these eyes inside a porcelain doll. In the case of these, which you can stretch the eye socket, it's just creepy. I could live 100 years and not knowing that, and that would be fine. How alloys are made. So apparently they get a crazy amount of these in this factory. They just clean it all, like, they chop it off and everything. They just throw all of them up there and it looks, why does it look like jellyfish? They put the whole thing in there, which I kind of doubt is 100%. Kind of looks delicious. You might not have an idea what this is, but these are safety gloves. It doesn't really show how the glove is made, but these safety gloves kind of prevent heat, electricity and everything. Put this thing in a painty, thick, liquidy thing. Believe it or not, works like a charm. How many of these are needed? How many people use this thing? That's crazy. What do you think this is? A machine that huge? Would you believe it, man? They use a machine that huge in order to be able to just bend glass for like windshields, I think, which is crazy. And it doesn't look like windshield, but if you wouldn't have shown me that, I wouldn't have believed that in a million years. Like they would have used a machine that huge for that. But cool, right? Ever wonder how these plastic boats are actually made of? You know, the ones that are used in a lake that probably got a paddle that you like do with your feet. So there's this huge machine that's got a mold. There's plastic coming out of a tube and then pushed, squeezed together with a lot of heat, and then that's the whole thing. That's it. Simple. It looks easy. I think you might have seen a bunch of these already, but this is like one of the coolest machines ever. Like this is just kind of like a syrupy, like very cold candy. It doesn't really show here, but there's the whole thing is just white, and then they just add food color. There's another one later on I'm going to show you, that one is sick. Let's just move on. I personally always, I don't know how, but I always wondered how fences are actually made. But now that I've seen this thing, I'm like, what? There's this rolling machine that's just, look at the things. There's this rolling machine that kind of like, you know, like, I can't find a words to explain this thing. It just looks crazy. Like you see the cylinder twisting shapes, they cut in half and they change layers. Now, that's interesting. How are plastic pools made? Apparently there's a giant shape for this thing. They just pour the plastic on this thing. It doesn't show it here, but it looks like it has heated and then weighted and you know, turned into this beauty, which I never had, but man, these machines are crazy. Well, this kind of looks like, it's not legit, but if you were wondering how pizzas are made, it's kind of like a similar thing in the factories. Well, not exactly like that. This is kind of a homemade machine, but it's gotta be like that. You know, they pour the sauce on this thing. I've seen there's this machine that coats this thing like evenly on this thing. And then there's a cheese sprinkler exactly like that. That kind of like rolls and then distributes cheeses, you know, as evenly as it can. This is just, you know, it's alright. Now this kind of blew my mind actually because I had no idea. But there's this company that comes and collects your milk. Breast milk, you know, because if you make a lot of breast milk, you gotta pump it out with a machine. And then you gotta kind of like, they don't last very long. So here's the thing. There's this factory that collects these. They freeze and then dry them. And then they turn it into powder. Just like how cool it is. It looks like coconut powder when it touches. Oh, man, I want some. That's booty powder. Did you ever wonder how threads are made? Look, so there's this big machine. They just add cotton into this thing. Cotton or whatever. It goes through this machine. It keeps getting smoothed out and like kind of like threatened. It kind of twists them all together. And it finally makes them into tiny threads, which you can use and push through a needle hole and whatnot. And which obviously you'd know even if you were a kid. But you know, I've personally never seen how the machines really do that. So I don't know. Now there's all kinds of prosthetics, right? So if you've got like a, I don't know, like it's just crazy. Look, this is kind of like funny. Apparently there's people out there that are not comfortable wearing sandals, which is not much different with the thing. If you're wearing that, you're still, you know, your feet is inside this whole thing. It's getting warm and pretty uncomfortable, but there's that. They make these prosthetic. Bruh, do you ever wonder how, so this, well, this is the thing. There's this huge, big amount of sponge put into bras, which are put into shape with these machines that, you know, give off a lot of heat and then get them into shapes. And then they, you know, like, did you need to know that? Well, this is just more than what we already saw. I think it's the same video even. Looks like fish. It just looks cool, man. I'd eat this thing. So how does FedEx deliver their boxes? They just go through these, which come from, I'm just kidding, that's just animation. This just looks cool. I don't really know what this kind of meat is used for, which looks like pork, but look at that thing. That thing is so sharp. I want to push my, no, I don't want to put anything in there. Orange juice. So I've seen little machines do this thing out there in the city, like, and if you ever go to like an ice cream place, they've got machines like that as well, and they kind of like really squeeze the orange really hard. But this machine is kind of a little different. It's just smashes this whole thing. It's just, I don't know, it's just it kills the oranges. Whatever comes out is just water. Now this is actually what I was talking about. Look, it's just crazy, man. This is a crazy amount of time put into this thing. It's candy, right? Kind of looks like Play-Doh. But the funny thing about this thing is that, did you see how thick it was? If you stretch it, it kind of like, you know, it shrinks. That's why there was little pieces of this candy. That's one hell of a candy, bro. How cookie cutters are made. It's still put through a mold and then pushed with these, you know, specific thrusters where it can like do exactly nothing else to say really. It just looks awesome. This is also pretty interesting. It kind of looks like the same machine they used for the orange, but they put the apple inside this crazy machine that just pushes them down there on a blade and it just makes them ready for apple pie. I think it's for apple pie. And that's just a lot of machines for apple. This thing is called a blast cutter. It's a little tool which is just crazy. It cuts through glass like a diamond. In case you ever wondered how glasses are cut into shapes if needed. Now this is how fake bodies are made for movies. Actually for TikToks lately. It doesn't matter what you want, if it's, I don't know, if it's a piece of ass, or I don't know, anything. Like a head, you want a head, you can get one. It doesn't really tell what it's made of, but I think it's silicone. Put into molds and, you know, Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. That will help me a lot on my journey. And if you want to see more videos like this one, click here or here. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.